that when I have a migraine, I'm very acutely aware of my sensory experience, right? Like as a person, like I'm aware of sounds, smells, sight in a hyper way compared to my everyday existence. But sometimes writing poems can also get me to that place, but without a headache.
Welcome to Migraine Again, helping you eat, breathe, survive, thrive, and engage better despite migraine. If you or someone you know struggles with migraine often, join us for today's insightful conversation. Now here's your host, founder and managing editor of MigraineAgain.com and co-host of the Migraine World Summit, Paula Dumas.
How can something beautiful emerge from such an evil, debilitating disease like migraine? If someone asked you, what does a migraine attack feel like? What do you see, hear, smell, taste, and feel? It's not that easy to describe. Words like agonizing, disabling, overwhelming, painful, or even surreal might come to mind. Today we have a special treat for you. An artist whose canvas is the blank page and whose brush is his distinctive voice. He's one of America's leading poets who just happens to have migraine. He will share his migraine experience with us in much more colorful words and pictures than most of us can conjure, let alone stitch together in a cohesive sentence or stanza. Join us today to immerse yourself in the beauty of his poetry and see if his migraine experience is anything like your own. We'll be back to meet him right after this.
Feel like you've tried absolutely everything for your migraine attacks without getting relief? Don't be discouraged. There's hope one click away on the MigraineWorldSummit.com website. Each year, we present conversations with 36 world-leading experts discussing the latest migraine treatments. Board-certified headache specialists from the Mayo Clinic, Harvard Medical School, Stanford, UCLA, and King's College London, offering insights to help you make real progress. You can also get our exclusive migraine treatment directory of over 250 different migraine therapies that people just like you are using today. Get an all-access pass to watch it anytime, anywhere, on demand at MigraineWorldSummit.com. You'll be glad you did. You're listening to Migraine Again. For show notes and resources from this episode, check out our program page on MigraineAgain.com. And now, once again, here's your host, Paula Dumas.
Regarded as a young poetic genius with a style like no one else, Michael Dickman's poems give a voice to the real-life sorrows, horrors, and joys of the human condition. He's the award-winning author of 5 books of poetry, including Green Migraine. His poems have appeared in The New Yorker and the American Poetry Review, and he teaches creative writing at Princeton University. He's giving a colorful, authentic voice to all people with migraine. Michael, welcome to Migraine Again.
Oh, thank you so much, and thanks for having me, Paula.
We're delighted to have you here. I'm kind of a poetry fan myself, which is why when I discovered your book, I couldn't wait to invite you to join us on the program.
Oh, good.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you become this rather famous writer at such a young age?
You know, by accident, really. You know, my twin brother Matthew is also a poet, and I think it's just something that I got excited about poems in high school because of a friend who had me read a book of poems that really kind of, it's corny to say, but changed my life and made me want to write poems. And then I just kept at it despite anything else happening in my life. And so now I find myself, you know, publishing poems and writing and teaching, and very happy to do so.
That is incredible. That is incredible. Well, maybe by the end of this talk, someone in the audience will be inspired to take a stab at creating their own poem.
Oh, they ought to, for sure.
They ought to. So you also happen to have migraine. Welcome to the club.
It's true. Thank you.
Yes. How old were you when you were first diagnosed?
I would say high school. So, you know, about a freshman in high school. I don't have any memory of having a migraine before I was a freshman in high school.
And how do you experience them now?
You know, I I experience a kind of, at least what I think of as a kind of basic migraine, really, really bad headache, nausea, vomiting, sensitive to light, any light. So when I get them, I close myself off in a dark room and kind of wait it out. And my migraines will last. A short one would be about 24 hours, and I've had one or two that have lasted up to 3 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah, and it's very frustrating because I also have two small children, my son August, who's 5, and my daughter Mavis, who's 17 months, and I can't, cook for them, take them out, do anything. And so it's frustrating, for sure.
Yeah, as a parent, you feel incredibly irresponsible when you can't fulfill the duties that you feel like you should be able to do.
Absolutely.
And the younger they are, the scarier it is. The older they get, the more they can help take care of you. But
exactly. Yeah.
while they're young, they kind of don't completely understand, why is Dad so sick?
Exactly. Yeah, and it's a strange thing. You can't see it. It's not like you have a stuffy nose or a runny nose or
a broken arm. Yeah,
a broken arm. It's just like it's something both invisible and very painful, as you know, and as listeners would know.
Yeah. Well, there is a lot of evidence about the genetic correlation for migraine, a number of genetic variants that show how it runs in the family. So it's always good to keep an eye on your kids because their symptoms are different than ours. So,
right.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your poetry. Your collection, The Green Migraine, explores chronic pain through intense, fleeting images. And the book is formed around 5 different migraine attacks represented by colors: white, red, yellow, green, and black. Would you do us the honor of reading a couple of those? You want to start with, we'll start with a premonitory poem, right? Bee Sting?
Great, let's do that. Yeah, this poem, Bee Sting, is a poem that I wrote that kind of feels to me, or tries to get close to the feeling that what I experienced right before the onset of a serious migraine. Mm-hmm. I'll just jump in and read the poem, and we could talk about what that might be afterwards. Bee Sting. Crying in the cosmos, that doesn't sound like you. Crying in our arms, in the cosmos, in our arms. Missile static and afterburn in the petals. Your yellow and black stingers. A child's drawing. Some riddle from before we were born that sounds like a river and spreads on toast. And floats from flower to flower. The first needle, the honey in the pot. I've always wanted to wake up surrounded by buzz and fuzz. My head lifted by a furry crown, set sailing into the late drone afternoon, drifting at the speed of sound. My mouth full of strange sunlight, killer bumble honey in the brain, dusting the earth. I've always wanted to bump the stamen and start the universe swaying. Those 10,000 wings you hear coming for you are yours, my little honeybee, burning in place in space. Pinprick in the epileptic air, swept up from corners and wrapped in banana leaves. Are you hungry? Alive in the center of the room, alive in flowers. Your white shoulders and white rump. Invisible death's head, turning on and off in the dark.
Wow. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
So tell me what kinds of symptoms you were describing that you feel before an attack comes on.
So for me, there can be a kind of a combination of like how I feel my body, like especially say my shoulders and my head, will become, the only way I can describe it is they can become sort of dense, like a feeling of weight. And it can, my hearing also can go a little fuzzy, like that fuzz and buzz in the poem, where it just, my hearing is not as clear as it usually is, and then my body feels denser, weighted down, in such a way that I'm drawn to the ground, like want to lie down on the ground. And then shortly after that, I should also say then also, like, I don't see auras in my migraines, but right before a migraine, light will become really, really sharp and angular. And then usually after that, the headache will come.
Mm-hmm. Well, I heard you mentioned bumble honey in the brain, and I wondered if that was some cognitive difficulties. A lot of people get that before an attack comes on. For
sure, yeah. I couldn't easily maybe even tie my shoe, right before a migraine. Or for me, it's a strange combination of, like, the quiet before the storm, which is maybe part of this hearing thing that I described and experienced. But yeah, for sure. The other thing is that I'm not sure if it's cognitive or not, but just fear starts to rise then,
Yes.
because I know it's coming and I can't stop it. And so there's this sort of, like, frightening quiet that happens right before a migraine.
Yeah. A lot of people are, I'm sure, nodding their heads, saying, yeah, I can relate to that. And I should clarify, it's not before an attack, but it's really the first phase of an attack called the premonitory symptoms, or premonitory phase, or the prodrome for people. So fascinating. Now, the title of the book, The Green Migraine, why did you choose that particular poem as the title for your book?
A couple reasons. These poems came out of both experiencing migraine and also my wife, Phoebe, had gotten me a copy of Oliver Sacks's early book, Migraine. And in it, he describes two early descriptions of kinds of migraine that I would guess people don't really use anymore. But one was white migraine and one was red migraine, depending on how, say, an Anglo person looked. If they had a migraine and they looked sallow, they would be diagnosed with a white migraine. If they looked angry, they would be diagnosed with a red migraine. And I feel like I probably look and experience more of the white kind, and so I wrote two poems called one White Migraine and one poem called Red Migraine. And then a friend of mine, Carl Adamczyk, who's a poet, said, you should also write some imaginary migraines. So I wrote a yellow one, a green one, a black one. Also in the book, there are a lot of poems about being outside and being in nature and hiking along the DNR Canal with my son. And so the color green, as in the color of grass or the color of a tree, seemed important. And of course, the migraines were at the center of the book. So the title, Green Migraine, made sense to me.
It does make sense. Well, let's not keep people in suspense any longer. Would you read it for us?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Green migraine. Some dragonflies down there. Some static and dirty diapers. I'll never get back to sleep this way. Dandelion teeth drop from a spring sky and skitter the surface of a pond and the perfectly still grass. Shake, shake, shake it. But don't break, break, break it. I can almost get it with these tweezers. Chlorine in the cupola. Feedback out of ferns. The eyes in frogs, like eggs, all burst at the same time from eggshells. Green sky, green sky, green sky. Some moss up there, some clouds getting sick. See those hummingbirds? I painted those with a silver-tipped paintbrush and an unopened bottle of mint cream amitriptyline. The peas in the pod cry out and then roll to the floor. In flames, the rind on the watermelon smiles. Tree ants melt in my mouth and leaves end in algae. Grasshoppers vibrate. The night was green, the morning was green, and now it's late afternoon inside a lawnmower. Some kids in there, some chlorophyll and sunburn. It doesn't hurt so much with the blinds shut. It doesn't hurt when a leaf falls to the ground. It's the sound. The grass in the yard stands straight up.
I can feel the blades of the lawnmower, like my last attack, That's really cool. And even the grasshoppers vibrating made me feel a sense of how sound can be thundering. Your senses are so heightened during an attack.
Right.
Is sleep a challenge for you with many of your migraine attacks?
It is, in that it doesn't exist. Or it exists only in snatches. But I'm not able to sleep through one or fall asleep if I have one. If I get a migraine when I'm asleep, then it wakes me up. And it makes for a very hallucinatory feeling because of the lack of sleep during the 24 hours or 2 or 3 days that I have.
You and Lewis Carroll.
That's what I did. Was that true of him? He wouldn't sleep.
He was also a migraine warrior, and many of the strange and surreal images that they talk about in Alice in Wonderland are attributed to his migraine attacks.
Oh, no kidding, of course.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So you're listening to Migraine Again, and our guest is poet and migraine warrior Michael Dickman. We're going to learn about his family, his creative process, and hear more of his stunning poetry about the human experience when we return right after this.
A thief is on the loose, breaking into 1 billion homes around the world like yours. This thief doesn't want your electronics or your jewelry. He wants your work days, your wallet, your relationships, and your most precious moments. On the street, he's known as Migraine. Ever heard of him? Lucky for you, your best defense is one click away at migraineworldsummit.com. Each year, watch 36 world-leading experts, including top patient advocates and headache specialists from the Mayo Clinic, Harvard, UCLA, and King's College London. Get an all-access pass to watch it anytime, anywhere, on demand at migraineworldsummit.com. You'll be glad you did. Hey, we'd like to hear about your life with migraine and offer some help and encouragement if we can. If you've got a question about migraine, we'll do our best to answer it and might even include it on one of our upcoming podcasts. If you'd like to submit a question, just go to our website, migraineagain.com/question.
We're back with Michael Dickman, whose vivid poetry puts colorful words to strangely and painful experience of migraine. Michael, will you share another one of your poems with us? How about Yellow Migraine?
I'd be happy to. Yellow Migraine. Daffodils shimmy in the dilated onion grass, their hearts out. She loves me not, smeared against the sidewalk. Urine left in the toilet all day simmers under halogens. Listening to someone else breathe, listening to static clean. Time to wipe down the refrigerator with a handful of ibuprofen and a bandana soaked in tonic water. Butter, black lemons, pine sol. Daffodils shimmy in the dilated onion grass, their asses off. Other yellow flowers, I don't see you yet. Noon tears down the street, a terrible kid on a brand new. Now I remember the faces of tulips. Speechless yellow peaches sweat inside brown paper bags. Press your forehead against the pit in the perfect peach, and everything will stop moving. How about that? Daffodils shimmy in the dilated onion grass, their eyes closed. Close your eyes, I close my eyes. Families of worms work their yellow way up through clouds in the mustard air. Slams into the yard. Pollen lies down on everything. It just lies down. Sun the color of photosynthesis, and that's fine. Birds bark inside houses. – Yellow fingers work the yellow spine.
I just like to pause and kind of take it in because it's just an interesting swirl of beauty and pain at the same time that feels really relevant to me. You talked about closing your eyes, and we both experience light sensitivity.
Right.
How do you experience that through your attacks?
Light has always been important to me in the poems that I've written before this book, Green Migraine. But and so I'm aware of it in almost like a painter might be or something. But during an attack, the light takes on even more of a physical presence than it does for me, but a sharp and painful one. And also has the physical ability of, I can hardly fight it, to have to close my eyes and lie down and try to get it out of the room that I'm in. Which usually means that like lying down with my eyes closed is not enough, but I usually have an eye cover of some kind.
Right. Our eyelids are just not thick enough.
Everything. They're not. They are definitely not. So I experience it as a real physical, like you would a pinprick or a paper cut.
Yeah, it's that painful. And Pine Sol, is that not a trigger for you? It drives me crazy.
You know what? I think want to say that sometimes things end up and show up in the poem that are even a mystery to me. However, it's true that there are certain smells that can help trigger, for me, a migraine. I don't have a reaction to anything that I know of where it would be enough on its own, but certainly there are certain smells, anything like a cleaning fluid, that would not be helpful if I was starting to feel a migraine coming on.
Right. Pine Sol, bright lights, sleep deprivation.
Exactly.
Weather changes, add the whole package together, and there you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you and your brother Matthew, your twin brother Matthew, who's also a famous poet, are incredibly close. I heard you call each other's piggies.
That's right.
And twin astronauts.
Yes, that's right.
And legit movie stars. Now that's impressive.
We were in a Steven, very happy to have been in a Steven Spielberg movie called Minority Report, where we played two characters who can sort of see into the future. Kind of a migraine-esque kind of vision that they have.
I can't wait to watch it again after this conversation. So
sure.
I will do that. Does he share your biology of migraine? People will want to know.
Not to the same extent. Our grandmother, who passed away last year at 103, suffered from acute migraines for most of her adult life. My brother Matthew, I bet that he experiences migraine maybe once every 2 years. So not very often.
Enough to relate to your poetry.
For sure.
Yeah. So one of our other guests, author Andrew Levy, he studied famous people who had migraine, like Thomas Jefferson and Van Gogh and Lewis Carroll, as we talked about. And he said that many of them had creative breakthroughs when the fog of the migraine lifts. Has that ever happened to you?
In a way, not. I've never experienced a creative breakthrough where, when the migraine lifts, the problem in the poem I'm working on was suddenly solved, and I could see a way into writing a great a line or something. But I do experience this kind of like overwhelming gratitude for life and a feeling of deep, deep relief and release. And being in that space makes for me like a very positive place to write poems from. If that makes any sense. So it's like, not that like I'll come out of a migraine and there'll be a poem in my head, but I'll come out of a migraine and feel like so glad to be out of it and that I could write anything or do anything,
You feel human again, and you want to celebrate that out of gratitude and produce something and kind of get back into what it is that you've been gifted to do.
exactly right. And that time when I have a migraine is, I feel like that is stolen from me.
Yes.
Time with my kids, or time working on a poem, time with my wife and family. And I come out of a migraine and I want to do everything all at once very happily.
I keep waiting for another Declaration of Independence to come off of my pen, and it doesn't. I don't know why, but I'll keep working on it.
Yeah, I do.
So what's your creative process for writing poetry? Does migraine play any other role in that than what we've already talked about?
I don't know that it does, except that it's true that when I have a migraine, I'm very acutely aware of my sensory experience. Right, like as a person, like I'm aware of sounds, smells, sight in a hyper way compared to my everyday existence. But sometimes writing poems can also get me to that place, but without a headache, because the poems that I try to make are often tightly connected to images and to sensory experiences, how light looks in a tree, what butterflies do in a bush, like, all these things, what an orange might smell like. Those things, like trying to get that experience down on paper is basically impossible, but I try. And so that, making the poems can get me close to feeling alive with all five senses in a way that the volume there is turned up, versus when I'm just waiting in line for a slice of pizza, or getting the car filled up with gas or something.
Mundane moments.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, migraine is a multisensory experience, and we had a great interview with Dr. Todd Schwett from the Mayo Clinic about all of the senses that are lit up not only during an attack, but in the what's called the interictal period between attacks. And he studies the brain and does, these incredible scans which show activity for light sensitivity, for example, between attacks. So even though the attack's over, you're still light sensitive. Even though the attack's over, you might still have allodynia, or sensitivity to touch.
Right.
So it's fascinating, and maybe there's some correlation between that and the creative process. I don't know.
Right. I could imagine that there is a connection, for sure.
Now, in your poetry readings, which I enjoyed watching on YouTube, you talk about your dreams, and I could completely relate to your sometimes mundane and sometimes vivid and bizarre dreams.
That's right.
Do you think that's related to migraine, or is it just a symptom of a creative brain?
I think it's just a symptom. Well, what I can say for sure is it's definitely a symptom of my brain. For the most part, I do have really mundane dreams. Like there's a very good chance, Paula, that tonight I'll have a dream of talking to you on the phone, and it'll be just like now. Or I'll dream about dropping my son off at school, and there'll be nothing strange about it, just like real life. But now, coming on almost 11 years ago, when my older brother died, I did have a series of really intense dreams about flies that were sometimes frightening, sometimes comedic, always strange. And those are the most intense dreams that I had since I was a small child. And I don't think they were related to migraine. Although I suffered migraines, of course, at the time.
Yeah, they were related to a really tragic loss. I'm so sorry.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Michael, for sharing your incredible poetry with us today and your personal story. And if you'd like to get a copy of his book, Green Migraine, or any of his other work, we'll include it in a link on migraineagain.com in the show notes under this program. Wow, this has been a real treat for me, Michael, and probably
I'm so glad, Paula, and thank you so much for having me on to talk to you. It's been a real pleasure.
Well, thank you for joining us, and I'm creatively inspired.
Oh, good. I hope everyone will be.
They will be. Great. And when we come back, we're going to tackle the listener question of the day about building a better relationship with your doctor.
A thief is on the loose, breaking into 1 billion homes around the world like yours. This thief doesn't want your electronics or your jewelry. He wants your work days, your wallet, your relationships, and your most precious moments. On the street, he's known as Migraine. Ever heard of him? Lucky for you, your best defense is one click away at migraineworldsummit.com. Each year, watch 36 world-leading experts, including top patient advocates and headache specialists from the Mayo Clinic, Harvard, UCLA, and King's College London. Get an all-access pass to watch it anytime, anywhere, on demand at migraineworldsummit.com. You'll be glad you did. This is Migraine Again, encouraging and empowering you in your battle against migraine because you deserve to feel better. You can hear this conversation again or share it with someone who might like to hear it by going to migraineagain.com. And now, once again, here's Paula.
Welcome back. I'm Paula Dumas, and we're here with the listener question of the day. And on the phone today, we have Olivia from Kansas. Olivia, welcome.
Hi, Paula. How are you?
Doing great, thanks.
So I was calling because I've been seeing a top expert in the field, a top migraine doctor in the community, and I'm just really not making the progress that I was hoping to make under him. And I was just calling to see if what your thoughts were in terms of finding a way to make it work with this doctor instead of starting over care with a whole new expert, because he's supposed to be really good.
That's a good question. And it sounds like it can be pretty frustrating. Let me ask a couple more questions of you. Did you start with a GP or a neurologist before you found your way to this doctor?
I did. I feel like I've seen just about every different type of doctor, which is how I even came about being under the care of a top physician who's pretty highly regarded within, the migraine community and world.
And when you went to see him, what were your expectations? What were you thinking you would get out of this experience with him?
Well, I really placed a lot of hope when I got into his office and was able to schedule. I waited so long to see him, and I just really expected that I would have a really significant breakthrough under his care, and I haven't, and it's really disappointing, and it's hard to manage my expectations because I want it to be awesome.
Yeah. Well, we all want a cure, and we realize that that's elusive and probably not going to happen, but we definitely want progress. So let's talk about some specific things that you can do so you feel empowered and maybe you can make the best of this relationship with this doctor. So if you're like everybody else, what you want and need out of a doctor-patient relationship is you're looking for a doctor who's understanding, empathetic, and doesn't treat you like all the rest of his patients. He's listening to you. You want somebody who's got a good bedside manner, but also has expertise and not arrogance. They recognize that they're not God and they show some humility. And if they don't have the answer, they admit that they don't have the answer. And if something's going to cause you problems or side effects, they let you know about the risks up front before you choose to do something, right?
That sounds like a dream.
It sounds like a dream. Where's my dream doctor? So what we have found is that talking to doctors can sometimes be difficult. You go in with all of your ideas and then the white coat stares you in the face and you think, oh, he's got 7 minutes to talk to me. There's not enough time. And so we sometimes get a little bit nervous or flummoxed and we don't get the most out of the conversation. So like everything, preparation helps. What I recommend to folks is that you, a few tips. First, catch him up briefly. Have your notes and say, here are the 3 things you need to know about what's changed in my condition since the last time we spoke. Right?
Right.
And then ask for what you need today. I came in to see you today because I need X, Y, and Z. This isn't working anymore. I need to be able to sleep through the night because the sleep is triggering my attacks. I need some help with my diet. I need, you tell them specifically this is what I need or this is what I'm interested in trying. And then bringing notes or a diary, so powerful. So there are a couple of apps that will give you, one's called Curulator, another's called Migraine Buddy, and there are some others, but they will give you reports that you can take into your doctor. And that can be really pivotal. You're papering their file. You're giving them something that they can study and say, this is me, and I'm a snowflake, a fingerprint. I'm different from every other person with migraine that you have seen today. And this is what I want you to understand about me. And maybe they can see something in those diary or notes that will give them some insights or aha moments to help you make progress.
Yeah, I think that would help a lot.
It would. And, we didn't have these tools a few years ago. So now that we have them, we all need to use them. Being bluntly honest is something that people are afraid to do because it's kind of embarrassing to say, some of the symptoms that we experience. People want to downplay their symptoms. They say, I sat in the waiting room with this person who had MS or Parkinson's. And so, I just have migraines. So, I don't really want to talk about it. Well, you can't, because you need to understand the impact that it's having on your life and on the people around you, on your caregivers. And you just have to be really honest about your strange and embarrassing symptoms and just get it out there because they can't help what they don't know about. And then, don't ask for special favors, which I imagine you probably wouldn't, but it doesn't go without saying, that you don't want to ask for free services, extra time, more access, or advocacy. That kind of tarnishes a relationship. But some people are inclined to think, I'm here with the expert. Maybe they can get me this, this, and this, right?
Yeah, they want to make the most of their time with them, and you wait so long to be seen, so you have like a million questions.
Mm-hmm. That's right. It's that pent-up demand that you feel from waiting for so long. And while you're waiting, one of the best things you can do is to engage the doctor's staff. Speak to them like you would speak to the doctor, with respect and consideration. And if you're dealing with a nurse or an administrator, that's helping to shape the perception that doctor has about you as a patient. So you want to treat them with respect and engage them, because if the doctor recommends something that might be difficult to do or difficult to obtain, and there's some follow-up work to be done afterwards, you're going to need other friends in the office who can help you through that. So win the Patient of the Year award by being kind to everyone, and it can produce some dividends. And then if the doctor's telling you, okay, Olivia, I would like you to leave here and do X, Y, and Z, and you ask about the risks of Z, and you're not comfortable with the risks of Z, you can just say, okay, doctor, here's what I've heard you recommend. Like, repeat back, this is what I've heard from you, and this is what I intend to do. I'm going to do X and Y. I'm not going to try Z because it's too expensive, not accessible, too many risks. I've heard crazy things about it, whatever reason. But you're going to tell them, here's what I intend to do. So you and the doctor leave with an understanding. And then you have, here are my next steps and here are your next steps. And then follow up afterwards. If they have next steps to do that you're waiting on, follow up and make sure, that they're taking the steps on their end that you need in order for you to get the care that you need.
I think that would help so much.
It would. And I have to review those steps myself every time I go back into the doctor because I get busy. I think I'm going to get an award for making it to the appointment. And that's really only half the battle. You really have to prepare before and after.
Yeah, it's difficult to get there, and it's like so much easier said than done. But if I could stick with those steps, I think that would really make my appointments much more proactive and help me more.
Well, I hope it makes your next doctor's appointment more productive and helps you make some progress. So keep us posted on how you're doing.
I will. Thanks.
And if you're not making progress with your doctor and you've taken all of these steps with them, then you might want to take a look at finding a different doctor. We do have a list of providers on our website, and we'll include a link to the article and that list in the show notes beneath this program. So if you found this program valuable, make sure that other people know about it. The best way to do that is to leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. It takes 30 to 60 seconds, and I would really appreciate it. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us. I'm Paula Dumas, wishing you a pain-free day.
Thanks for spending part of your day with us. We hope that you feel encouraged and empowered in your battle against migraine because you deserve better. If you want to suffer less and live more despite migraine, be sure to check out all the great resources on migraineagain.com. Follow us on your favorite social network and subscribe to our free newsletter and this program. If you enjoyed today's episode, tell a friend about it and be sure and join us again next time on Migraine Again. You'll be glad you did.